Hey friends. So at this point, you have probably heard about the new pay structure with VIPKID, and I've had a few days to think about it, and I just wanted to share some of my own thoughts because there's a lot of thoughts out there. And as someone who comes from working in a more corporate level position and just really business minded, when these things happen, I tend to empathize with the business because I know that there's someone behind these changes that made that decision. But I have mixed feelings about the pay structure change. And first, I want to say I don't think that it's fair. Uh, I I recognize that the bottom line is it's scary to think about when you're a business. And I know that their decision came at an awkward time during the whole coronavirus pandemic, cutting pay when people are really struggling. It didn't seem to make sense. But do remember that they've been kind of ahead of us in all of this. So they're kind of coming out of it, and while the US and most of North America is still kind of working our way out, China has been kind of going through this, and they're going through a lot of other economic things as well. So they're just in different mindsets. Now, I'm not saying that it's an excuse. I'm just saying, remember, it's not justifying it in any kind of way. But as far as the pay structure goes, the decision that they decided to make is going to negatively affect the majority of teachers. In my opinion, I don't have statistics or anything, but it just seems like their system really feeds those who need a part-time position, and with the new pay structure, they're really only benefiting those who choose to do this as a full-time position, which is not totally fair. Because I do think that the majority of their team, their contractors, are part timers, um, including myself. So that's we tend to speak out of our own experience, and I am someone who was going to be taking a pay cut from this. That said, I have been on the other side of making these really difficult decisions, and I know that a lot of thought has to go into them. So I don't believe that they're just like, hey, you know what we should do? We should cut pay because we'll make a bunch of money off of this. I have to believe that that's not what happened. But it doesn't mean that they made the best decision. They just made the best decision in their own, with all the things that they have going on. Um, I just think of examples like when I was working in the theater and we would raise ticket prices, and it would take months for people to get on board. We would field a lot of aggression and just disappointment and straight up anger about price changes, whether it's 25 cents or 50 cents. They're not on board because they don't think it's a justified change. And there's a lot of things that go in the back end, a lot of things that they don't realize that employees do know. Thankfully, we were able to explain that to our employees. Why are we making this change? Okay, here are profit margins, here are like the fluctuating costs that we are working with, and why we make certain changes. But to our guests, it didn't make sense, and we had to like empathize. Like, yes, it's hard. Like, I'm sorry, and it takes months for those changes to be normalized. And another instance was we cut the show times out of the local newspaper, and we got a lot of backlash for that. When I was working at the cinema, I didn't make that decision, but it was a higher level decision at the time, and we dealt with a lot of backlash, a lot of confusion. Why are you making this change? It was seemingly really beneficial for people, and they didn't understand why it was changing. So I think about these things when I think about why is someone making this change? Like, what is the driving factor behind it? And the truth is, like, I don't know. But I don't know. And that's one of the things that I think that VIP could do better. As someone who has worked in uh, lots of different like business areas and been in charge of different employees and such, I think it's really, really important to be ultra communicative. Like, you cannot over communicate to your employees, and that's one thing I learned. And just even the few years that I had been working my way up, I noticed a lot of change in the way things are done through leadership. And one of those things is people are, like, the workforce itself is changing, and I think it's changing for the better. And one of those things is we want to know the why, right? If you're familiar with Simon Sinek, I was really, really like motivated by some of his speeches when I was in leadership and started telling people why we made decisions. Like, okay, here's a new change, guys. And instead of just trying to get everyone on board, it was like, here's why we're making those changes. And that is such an important step that VIPKID missed. They're not telling us what the driving force is behind these changes, except perhaps it helps their bottom line. But the bottom line, one thing I've realized is if it stays, if it's just monetary, and then it's only a numerical game and that only gets you so far. Because running a business is so much more than numbers. And I just want to like tell them this, because the people that make up your business, once you start focusing on that, sharing the why, and as scary as it is being like open book with them, you'll start to see real changes. And I think if VIPKID wants to stay like the number one ESL company, they're going to have to realize that quality needs to be rewarded. And right now, this pay structure awards quantity. If you teach more, you make more. That's great for some, but it's not helping VIPKID themselves be a better company. It's helping them make more money. And money is great, and it's gonna get you so far. And when you print your numbers at the end of the year and you're like, look at how much we made and how successful we were, that's one part of the picture. But your staff, your contractors, like the people are so much of the business. And I think it's going to come back around. I'm still holding out. I have a lot of hope because I do know that they do a lot of really cool like perks, and they do lots of incentives, and they get the teachers involved in different ways, and I think it's really cool. They still have a lot of really cool programs and incentives going on with VIPKID, more than I've seen in any other workplace that I've been. Just different ways for you to get involved, way you speak up. They have advocates on Facebook even, just to reach out to North American teachers. And I think they're still doing some really cool things. The pay structure, the way they handled it, I would have done it differently. I think they need to share the why. And I think if they do need to cut pay, because no one wants to work for a company that can't pay its bills. Like, we're all going to be out of a job if VIPKID can't pay their bills. So if they needed to adjust their bottom line and to start really focusing on that, fine. I can go there with you, and I can respect that. I do think there are more creative ways to do it than taking it from your contractors, personally. But I don't know their numbers, and I'm not going to pretend that I do. But I do think that if they're going to change this quantitative factor, they need to really ramp up some qualitative factors. So they need to create incentives and just really get people involved to improve the quality of our teaching. Like, I think I'm a great teacher. I've got lots of regulars. I have all 5 Apple reviews. That doesn't mean I'm the best. And I would love if there were ways to motivate me to be better and not just teach more. Because if I teach more, I'm going to be more tired. I'm not going to be my best self. And I can't teach more. Like, I physically cannot. I don't have that time available to me. I have 2 small children. So it's not an opportunity for me. And I don't think that VIPKID is really connecting with that. They're not connecting with their people where they are. They're just like, hey, it's great if you can be here, but so many of us just don't have that opportunity, and they're just not making that connection. I do have hope, though. I really do think that they understand the incentives. They're trying to get people involved. They have a pretty good support system, considering it's global. They're a global company. So I'm holding out. I'm gonna keep teaching because, one, I do still love the job. The job itself hasn't changed. I do it partly because, yes, I need the money, and also because I really do enjoy doing what I do. And as long as I'm enjoying what I do, I mean, hallelujah, that's what everyone wants, isn't it? That's a primary thing. But doesn't mean that I don't think I wouldn't work for a pay I didn't think I deserved. And I think I deserve every penny that I have been making, and now it's going to be less. So that is frustrating. It's very frustrating. All that to say, I'm holding out. I really do think that VIPKID is going to figure it out. they might be slower, which is really unfortunate because I do think that just like the way of the world has been changing, and in my own experience in the world of business, focusing on and being kind of employee centric has really boosted productivity and just quality of work. And that's the way things are going. Because I heard the statistic, and I'm probably not going to quote it correctly, but I think it was like it's been like 30 years since we've had a change in like discipline and things and such. And I've talked about this in according to their actual discipline policy, but I think it relates here too. We used to employ people to work 12-hour days. It used to be very rigid systems. They worked in factories. It was cold cut. Um, and we used to train people that way too. Like, this is how you do your job. If you don't do your job, this happens. But things have just become more complex and beautiful. And I think that they're not translating that. That's still kind of this like antiquated idea. But I think it's going to change. I really, really do. And I don't want to spend forever talking about it. But I just wanted to share my opinion. I think that VIPKID didn't handle it the best. They did not. It's a little unfair. And I do understand that they need to meet their bottom line. So there's always there's always this gray area. I've always been someone who's like empathizes with kind of like two sides. I try to understand both sides of the story, and I do understand that bottom lines can be super important for a business, and there's a lot of people affected by the bottom line. So we do want a company that's going to be successful because it's gonna help us. But I think that they need to focus on quality. That's got to be the next step, and I'm really hoping that that's what happens. And I know with the free certifications, and that's definitely something. And there's things that we don't hear about. There's a lot that really boosts in the 6 Apple stuff. You get like a discount on my taxes and stuff like that. That's cool. It's something. It's not nothing. And I just want to put a little hope out there for everyone who's been really confused, struggling, frustrated, or just angry. Just to remember that there are people behind these decisions, and we might not agree with those decisions, but we do have a voice. You can contact support, go to the tickets and contact them and let them know what you're thinking. Our voices, if you have something to say, get it out there. And I would encourage you to keep teaching, because I think that it's still a really good platform. I like how they've designed it. I do think that they are actively trying to get their teachers involved, and they are trying to improve quality through their library and different certifications that they offer. There's more to go, but they are trying, and because I can see those efforts, I have respect for that, and I think that you should too. And I think it's still worth sticking out with VIPKID. That doesn't mean you can't diversify. I mean, anyone who's an investor will tell you that diversifying it's really beneficial. So if you think that you still need to work for another company, because in the end, if you also have your own bottom line that you've got to meet, right? Sometimes you have to do different things to meet that, and I am considering it. If I end up going that route, I will obviously let you know. But this is just a word of encouragement to keep strong. I encourage everyone to stay with VIPKID a little longer. But if you don't, I totally understand, and I would actually love to hear your opinions on why maybe you're leaving as well. So that's that. The pay structure. One, they're meeting the bottom line, but they have more to go. They've got further to go yet. And I have hope, and I still love my job. I don't think I'm going to stop saying that. We'll see. So far, so good. Anyways, I love you guys. Thank you so much for listening, and I will have another video hopefully soon. Bye.